My name is Kirill. Welcome to Curious Sports Pulse. I mean, we kind of called it. We kind of called it with Dan Hurley, didn't we? We did. We did. Uh, I have said from the get go. I have said from the beginning that this was a farce. This was a facade, and I completely disowned. Which I don't think I'm the one who can disown this, but regardless, it doesn't matter. You get the point. I never bought into this notion. I never believed for one moment that the Lakers had the inside track or that Dan Hurley was the number one guy. I had never thought that for a moment. It just doesn't make sense, right? You have Dan Hurley, he wins the championship, and he's engaged in contract negotiations that to renew a deal fresh off of a 6-year deal. This is happening in um this is happening right in the at the end of April. Then May we hear the news. May the Lakers let go of Darvin Ham. But let's be clear, it was in April. It was around the second week of April, around the 10th, where the contract breakdown happened between Dan Hurley and UConn. That's when that happened. And then a month later, a month later, goodness, I'm talking, but talking can be hard. But then a month later, we hear that we hear Darvin Ham gets fired. And then a month after that, give or take, is when, because Dan Hurley's contract negotiations were breaking down, that's when we hear the reports. That's when we get the renewed push. And do you know why? More specifically, I don't believe this at all. First of all, again, I'll hold the same standard as I did with Woj, as I do with Shams, in that I'm not blaming Shams for reporting what he reported. That would be totally unfair. Right? And I'm not saying that they are lying. They can only deal with the information that they are given at the time. So they trust their source. That's the due diligence that they have to do on their part. That So they can't help if someone who has been reliable in the past is simply trying to get another story out there. They can't help if someone who has been reliable and someone who has given them credible, legit information before is now simply playing a game or trying to win a PR battle or trying to jockey for position. They can't help that. What And then this is then, however, right, that's part of the game, though, unfortunately, for them, is every now and then you'll get a little bit of egg on face. And I don't mind egg on my face, but usually I only prefer it when it's in an omelet form. So what do I actually think happened? JJ Redick was the front runner, but there was a list of about 5 or 6 candidates, and JJ Redick was seen as most favorable. At the time, it would have been a long shot. It would have been inconceivable to think that Dan Hurley would even consider the Lakers job. Why would he? But what I think actually happened, and I'll stand by this, JJ Redick somewhat overplayed his hand. He got a little bit too confident in his potential role. He felt that the job was his, and so the Lakers needed needed a public negotiating um counter. There's a way better term for that is not coming to mind, but a foil. They needed a counter. They needed a foil. They needed something that would say to JJ Redick, "Hey, yes, of course you're the guy. Of course we will hire you in an instant, but don't think you're the only horse in this race. Don't think that you can." And I doubt that it was money, because although we see that Dan Hurley reportedly turns down the $60 million deal, 5 years. So what's that, about 12? And I think I have the exact number wrong, but because that would work out to 12. It ended up being a little over 12 mil a year. And E-Rock came here on the air and said that that 15 mil or higher would be needed to pull him away from UConn. We see they went obviously lower than that, and just like E-Rock predicted, that wasn't the case. So that didn't happen. And it was pretty clear from the get-go of it was pretty clear from the get-go on the side of Dan Hurley that it would take a significant offer to pull him away from UConn for obvious reasons. But what I actually think and what makes the most sense is that this was something of a situation where, hey, if you're the Lakers, you use this Dan Hurley thing, you make the additional phone call, or even let's pretend that there was an initial outreach to Dan Hurley, and just that talk faded because it looked like he would be a UConn Husky head coach for life until retirement. I still view, and what still makes the most sense is the JJ Redick talks. The JJ Redick particular stalled enough so that the Lakers needed something big, something that everyone would know, something most importantly, something public, so that they would regain leverage in the negotiations. That's really clearly what both sides of this are doing. Dan Hurley wants a bigger contract. The fact that he was around the top 7, top 8 in terms of highest paid coaches in college basketball is almost too. That's just almost impossible to believe, right? And now reportedly with this new deal that he will be one of the highest paid coaches and not the highest paid coach, but that it's filled with other benefits. Still kind of shows how we got to this point. So this is where all of this stems. But notice how notice how everything was revolving around Dan Hurley leaving UConn. And maybe I'm over exaggerating a little bit because obviously the Lakers are a huge brand. Obviously the Lakers would have been more than fine with Dan Hurley accepting the position. It was his too. If he had said yes to whatever the offer was, they would have accepted in a moment, right? The offer was on the table for him. But from our side, it was always, well, is he going to leave UConn right now? Is he going to not pursue the three-peat? Which that is a chance of history of trying to make history that, I mean, let's face it, very few coaches have the chance, have the opportunity, have the roster, and have the clout needed to even attempt to pull something like that off. So the fact that we're now here for UConn, it doesn't make sense that Dan Hurley would have wanted to leave that specific situation. Right? The relationship with the university it's good. It's good enough. No. On course, on track to make history, like I just mentioned. And the university seems willing to play ball, at least give that significant pay increase so that you're one of, shout out to Bill Self in Kansas, the highest paid coaches. So even though this jump to the NBA didn't happen, what I view as backdoor jockeying for position, it worked. Dan Hurley got UConn back to the negotiating table, fresh off of a 1 year into a 6-year deal. I believe it's a 6-year deal. If it was 5, then pardon me, but I'm doing this. Believe it or not, this show does not pre-produce or produce or have notes or anything like that beforehand. This is all just straight knowledge or lack thereof. So feel free to correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. But I believe he was 1 year, if memory serves, 1 year into a 6-year deal that was signed last year. And because of the back-to-back championships, he was able to get them back to the negotiating table. And it's so exciting that I need a little more coffee to get a little bump in my step. I am out of coffee. That's great. That's just great. But let's focus back on Dan Hurley and less on my drinking coffee habits. But this really worked to the T, and this predictably ended the way it did in terms of Dan Hurley wanted a pay bump, wanted a pay increase, felt like he earned it, felt like he had outperformed his recently renewed contract, and he forced their hand. He made it so that they had to at least offer, and then the ball was truly in his court. Do I leave UConn a place where I'm comfortable, a place where everything around me is comfortable? And let's be real. Now, unfortunately, we'll never see this come to pass. Now, unfortunately, we'll never be able to see who was right. But I maintained on this show that it would be too hard of a jump for any college coach to make it to the NBA level. And why? Because history shows us this. And everyone was showing a lot of clips of Coach Hurley, of him being intense, of him and his hands-on approach. And everyone was using this as, see, he sets a standard. He demands a lot out of players. But we all know that more likely than not. Now, could he, in my view, he would have had to have adjusted. More likely than not, this was going to be a short-lived honeymoon. First of all, it's the Los Angeles Lakers. They have two great players. LeBron James is still somehow a top 10 player. I don't think that's up for debate. He's certainly a starter in this league. That for sure is not up for debate. I would say personally, I would have him top 5, but I don't want this to be a LeBron's too old or LeBron is out of his prime. And I definitely don't want the Jordan fans to be mad. So let's just go ahead and say he's currently a top 10 player, just so that we get everyone on board for this argument. Okay. LeBron James still currently a top 10 player, depending on how you view Anthony Davis. Again, let's just be all encompassing as possible while being reasonable. Anthony Davis is a top 20 player, right? I have him higher personally, but let's try to be charitable. Let's try to be a big tent conversation here on this podcast, okay? Anthony Davis, LeBron James, 2 top 20 players on this team. But the rest of the pieces, they don't fit. Almost the opposite in Boston, where, and we'll get to Boston and Dallas game 2 in a moment, but right, it's almost the exact opposite of Boston, where you trust Boston's role players. You like how they fit with the team. They know their responsibilities. And you have questions about their main 2 starters, mainly at this point, Tatum. But again, we'll get to that in a moment. Where LeBron and AD, you largely know what you're getting if they're both fully healthy, or if they're healthy for enough games. You know what you're getting. But what you don't know on this Lakers team, and this is true whether it would be Dan Hurley, whether it ends up being JJ Redick, more on that in a moment, and whether it's anyone else who was listed on the list. And again, Wojnarowski reported it was a list of about 5 names about 2 weeks ago, I would say. This is still an incomplete roster. This is still a roster that doesn't have good chemistry. This is still a roster that has a lot of issues. And we know coaches switching from college to the NBA levels or college to the NFL. that it's an adjustment, and that very often they're seen first as a college coach no matter what, and that it's hard for them to have true locker room buy-in. We know that this is the case. And that often what the drive, the competitive edge, and the messaging that is so successful at the college level, that is often off-putting for professional athletes who are millionaires in their own right. And this isn't an NIL thing. This is more of a matter of fact. Hey, I'm a 12-year vet, right? I go home to my wife and kids after this. I have a mortgage on my mansion. I'm going to be here way after you are. And and now you're telling me I'm not sprinting my ladders fast enough on a random Tuesday. No longer can we say after back to back, because that's more rare. But either way, you get the point. For sure, this is a staple amongst even veteran professional coaches of the message gets old. The once the players start hearing the same thing over and over again, they kind of tune it out. Which is why not to go down this path, but which is why what happened in New England is so impressive. And if you want to have the debate between who was more responsible, Brady or Belichick, for sure both. I lean on the side of both, but Brady being the main guy, superstar, Brady buying in is what makes that. And so now try as LeBron might, or try as for any NBA player, it's going to be somewhat difficult to see anyone willing to be talked to like a college player again. And what make Dan Hurley so great is his attention to detail, but also that day in and day out drive. So this is why I personally was on the boat of I need to see success before I believe success from Dan Hurley. That's how I viewed it. And so now we'll never see who was right. But this is what we are thinking now. Now, let's move on to JJ Redick. So he's always been in line. He's always been the most likely person. And case in point, I guess we're gonna flip around a little bit in terms of what we're talking about here, or we're gonna go back and forth. The reason why I never bought the report or the reporting that Dan Hurley was always the number one option is because the Lakers are one of the more porous organizations in anything, in regards to anything. So we all saw the parade from Magic Johnson, and I'm calling it a parade. Uh, that's unfair on my part. So I'll admit that's unfair. Um, he goes on I think it was the Jimmy Kimmel show, right? And we hear all about it. The reports are out there. Wojnarowski's making the rounds. The reports are making the rounds. That is more of how the Los Angeles Lakers operate. Oh, he was always the number one option, who they've wanted from the start. That's the Los Angeles Lakers. I believe that came from the Los Angeles Lakers, and that was their intention at the time, was to make sure everyone knew that they wanted Dan Hurley. And so either they drive the price, or they drive the demands of JJ Redick down, or they get a guy who they really want, who they also really want in Dan Hurley. What I don't believe is that they kept it bottled up for a month to 2 months, or even 2 weeks. Well, no, because that doesn't make sense with the timeline. So at the latest, you'd have to say maybe not 2 weeks. Because end of May. Let's give it a month. Let's give it a month, right? either way, the reasoning of, well, because contract negotiations stalled with Dan Hurley and UConn, this is why he was always the number one, and this is why we're hearing about it now. Well, that all happened way before right now. And the fact that literally nothing is escape proof from this organization. We're far more likely to hear about who's at fault for the leak than for there to be zero leaks coming out of this organization. That's more like, if you had to pinpoint, if you had to place money on what's more likely, in the upcoming days, we hear who's responsible, or we hear who's to blame, or we hear what went wrong in the Dan Hurley negotiations. What's more likely, that, or that the Los Angeles Lakers truly kept it a secret that Dan Hurley was forever their number one target? What's more likely? Come on, be honest with yourself. Which is why, for the most part, on the airways, when Adrian Wojnarowski said that Dan Hurley was always the main guy, no one believed it. Exactly, no one believed it. But JJ Redick now. Again, I just think he simply overplayed his hand, whatever. And I don't even know. I don't even believe that it's a money thing. It could be fine. It could be a money thing. I mean, as we saw, if we're being honest, they did the offer low. What the Lakers offered Dan Hurley was something of a low ball offer, around 12 million. Right, the highest paid college coach is around 9 million. He would. It looks like he would have gotten around there. So it seems for an organization with the stature of the Los Angeles Lakers that that's something of a lowball offer, right? If he truly is your number one guy who you can't live without, right? That gap seems a little bit of a lowball offer, almost insulting. But right, we don't have to bury that point any more than what we already have. Too late, yeah. Well, JJ Redick, there's going to be a press release storm. There's going to be some further jockeying after this, where what was said, what was shared was not totally accurate. JJ Redick was always the guy, or whoever they end up deciding. Unfortunately, they played their hand too much, too well, because Dan Hurley was supposed to be the guy to bring favorable negotiating points, or favorable negotiating, a more favorable negotiating standpoint for the team in regards to the JJ Redick coaching situation. At least that's how I view it. But Dan Hurley couldn't indefinitely hold UConn ransom with this decision, and mostly because of the players. He has too high respect for all the work he has done and for all of the work that the players have done, where this couldn't have been drawn out indefinitely. So that's why they needed the decision Monday. So now that the number one guy is gone, what's step two? And this is why I think this explains everything much better about the Lakers, because right, we heard about a month later that Dan Hurley was always the one, and we heard this from the mountaintops. So now what do you do for the guy who you do hire? Hey, you were our second choice, but you were close. Or you were our third choice, but you were a close second. Right? That's not going to play over well. So this is why I am anticipating, this is why I am predicting we're going to see more spin. And just like Jordan is saying, Dan legit clowned the Lakers Jordan, are you free right now? Do you want to hop on? I forgot to ask. I have a new system I'm working on. Oh, Jordan, if you are free if you're busy, no worries. But if you are free right now, hop on, my guy. Or do you want to do it later? You let me know. You can message me or tell me in the chat here. It doesn't matter to me. But that's how I'm viewing this thing. JJ Redick overplayed his hand. Dan Hurley was trying to get to the negotiating table, but it didn't work. And now we're here where, oh, he said, yeah, man, hell yeah. Now we're here where JJ Redick has literally all of the negotiating power again. JJ Redick is 100% in the driver's seat because it's very clear that LeBron James is fond of him. And credit to what LeBron is making public, or at least what's being reported. He is making it known. He is making sure that it's known that any decisions made are with the best interest in mind of the organization. In other words, he's saying to not make any decisions, to not have in mind you know, what he wants or his power or his flex or whatever, however you want to phrase it. He's saying, no, please do what's best for the franchise. Please do what's best for the future, especially the young core and Anthony Davis. He's a free agent. Rich Paul has made that clear. And people are misinterpreting what he means when he says that. He just means he's leaving all options available. In other words, very realistic, very possible that LeBron James comes back, but he's also going to just see if there are any better fits or any better offers. And of course, a lot of it, I think, I mean, this is kind of a no duh statement. A lot of it will depend on Bronny. Of course, we know this, but I've said from the beginning, Jordan, JJ Redick was the guy that this whole Dan Hurley thing was a facade. This was smoke and mirrors. And now the Los Angeles Lakers have played themselves. Jordan, JJ Redick,
No.
Ramos, how are you feeling?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Gabe. I'm doing good. And unlike the Lakers, I kind of figured it. I kind of figured, I try to make a joke about this, but then it'll be like Dan Hurley, you'll be gone soon. Dear Lord,
Stop.
God, this is just hilarious.
Stop.
Like this entire and I looked at the contract. I looked at the contract again.
Yeah.
It was like eight. It was like freak. I need to look at the watch deal because
what the offer was?
it was 70 million. I'm like,
Oh.
Dan was like 70 million. Nah, I'm good. Because
over 6 years, so that works out to almost 12. That works out to 11 mil. Yeah, like just over 11 and a half mil, right? That's a fraction. What do you think of that? 11 and a half mil a year, just a little over that a
Monty
year.
Williams is making. Monty Williams got 78 million. Like,
I mean, they lowballed him.
Come on,
they lowballed him.
It's exactly like what do you expect? What do you expect? He was going to be like, okay, I'm gonna go to LA. Nah, my man was like, there's gonna be a 3-peat. There's gonna be a 3-peat at UConn. Andre, we're gonna do it for the bit. Andre, we love you, Andre. He ain't gonna hang himself today. He ain't gonna cry himself to sleep with liquor.
No,
he's celebrating right now.
Not.
Like UConn fans, they're going streaking.
That's Jordan with his read on the situation. Love it. But they lowballed him. Jordan, this is what I've been saying from the get-go. Why I never believed that Dan Hurley. Oh, thanks for joining, by the way. My apologies for not letting you know sooner. Thanks for joining, man.
No problem.
Jordan Ramos, JC Ramos, 6898. Definitely top 5 Twitter account of all time. Of all time. I'm putting my foot down there on that one. But anyway, I never once believed the Woj report that Dan Hurley was the number one guy. And to me, in my opinion, this offer shows that he never was the number one guy. If Dan Hurley is your number one guy, you're not offering him just north of $11.5 million a year, right? That makes zero sense.
Yeah. Like, you're probably gonna offer that to JJ Redick, and even then, like, he's probably might me like, oh, you're lowballing me.
Well, now
like again, like Monty Williams is making $13 million per year. Like, you gotta go bigger than that. Like, that's literally like a spit in the face. So yeah, I'm not really. So yeah, like, I'm a little shocked they didn't get him. But then, like, when you look at the contract, you're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
And probably might be a little conspiracy, but Dan basically leaked the story to be like, hey, UConn, they're offering me money. Give me more money. I want to be here for the 3-peat, my boys, my students.
And it looks like that's working because they re-entered the negotiating table. So real talk, that's what it looks like it was.
Yeah.
The latest offer that I saw was he's going to be, quote, one of the highest paid coaches, Dan Hurley, in college basketball.
Yeah. But still, like, it also can be like, hey, Lakers fans, we tried to get the 2P guy, so don't hate us. And I'm like, you lowball, and what do you expect? What do you expect? A parade? No.
I mean, really great point too about the Monty Williams thing. Monty Williams made it to an NBA Finals, but I mean, come on.
A 10-year-old can lead into the finals. Can lead that into a finals. Jesus. They got smoked by the Bucks. And then he got exposed with the Suns, and then Detroit hopped in that hopium, and they not only that, they hopped in that that hard stuff, and then they're like, you know what, we're gonna give you all this money because they're Detroit. They're Detroit Pistons.
And how much is that a year again? How much is that a year for Monty?
13 million. I think 13 million per year. Like, I'll check again because, like,
oh no, I believe you.
Yeah, $13.5 million a year. They're paying a man $13.5 million a year for 20 wins.
Yeah,
13 wins.
They're paying Monty Williams for them to celebrate the double-digit win. They're like, oh my god, we got to 10, yay! Jordan, No Earmuffs Joe has a comment for you. So Jordan can lead a team to the finals. That's what I heard. Yes, he could, Joe. Yes, you can, Jordan.
Give me my stars. Give me my alcohol. I'll lead this team all the way to a Game 7 finals.
And that's Jordan with a coaching breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. I can't. Can you find or do you know? Do they release the contracts of ESPN? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying so hard and I'm failing to find JJ Redick's contract.
I don't think they gave him the contract. That's the thing. Like, wait, the ESPN contract?
No, yeah. Do you know? I'll admit I don't know this. Do they release the numbers of how much the big personalities signed for? Do you know?
Not really. This is saying multi-million year extensions and contracts.
Yeah, that's all I'm seeing too.
Yeah.
So, and I bring that up to say, so now the market's set.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we're saying the Lakers offer is going to be, just to keep it easy for me. Let's just say that they offered him 11.5 mil. I know that's not what they offered. What was it, 70 over 6?
Mm-hmm.
That's 11.66666666666. But so right, just a little over 11.5 mil a year. And Dan Hurley said no.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if you're the Lakers, you kind of pigeonhole yourself. You put yourself in a corner. In my opinion, if you're going to go after someone who the fan base is going to put your arms around, if you're going to make a Los Angeles Lakers hire, right, you can't just hire someone who could actually do a good job if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, right? That's not on
Mm-hmm.
brand for them. You have to hire a big name. So now you've almost made it so that it has to be north of 12 million at least, right? Or am I misreading this, do you think?
Probably because if they sign just some random coach, people are gonna be mad because like Redick it the sexy pick, even though I think, in my personal opinion, it could be a disaster.
Yes. Both.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jordan, over under on how many years JJ Redick lasts as the Los Angeles Lakers coach?
At bets a 6-year contract, but he's probably going to be out by year 2.
And that's at best.
Mm-hmm. At bets he stays there for 6 years. At worst, year 1 he gets year 1 or 2 like he gets canned.
There we go.
He's gonna get that money. That's the thing. He's leaving with something.
Jordan, do you know what the best job in the job market is?
Mm-hmm. What is it, Gabe?
A fired coach. That is the best job.
That's true.
Great work if you can find it. Jordan, let's move on to game 2. Did you get a chance to watch game 2?
I saw some of like on the third. I saw most of the fourth quarter, and Dallas just looked completely lost. Like, even though Tatum isn't really scoring, he's just been rebounding the ball. He's been doing very well defensively, and I'm like, how are you losing to Jason Tatum? And just Luka trying to carry his team to a win, while everyone else is like, "You can do it, Luka," and then Kyrie just going to another tangent about Jewish people and stuff.
Yeah. Kyrie. He was starting to turn down the narrative, and I think he still is. He being Kyrie.
Mm-hmm.
But what's going on with him? He's struggling now, Jordan.
I think like one of the analysts was literally talking about like they're literally botsing him in. They're like defensive, like they're just shutting him down. They're just shutting him down. I'm like, kind of, yeah, because he just looked real. It looked like Boston was just boxing him and shutting him down, like just shutting him down, because like a lot of the other role players with Dallas are missing their shots. Like, it's mostly that. It's just Boston playing good defense, and
Yes.
and Dallas trying to play catch up. Poor. Like, you see,
All right.
like I'm looking at
go
the
ahead.
thing. I'm looking at PJ Washington's shot was 6 for 13. Like, they're making the role, like they're killing the role players. They're killing them.
Although, Jordan, I will say it came to fruition, and we don't wish ill upon anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But we said you have to keep Porzingis at 20 minutes. He played 22 minutes, and we saw what happened at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he said, he either said I'll have to die or I will die on the court, meaning that he's not going to miss game 3. I think we know what that means, Jordan.
He ain't.
You have your suit ready?
Oh, I just need to get my dress. I got a couple of dress shirts ready. just in
Yeah.
case. But yeah, Porzingis is like, I will die for this team. Then it wasn't like that in Dallas, or he's like, owie, my arm, I need to be in the bench.
For the audience, that's actually how Porzingis sounds, by the way.
Exactly.
So, okay, Jordan, what's going to happen? So, first of all, for me, the Boston Celtics defense has been most impressive. And this will be weird if they win and Jason Tatum is averaging whatever he's averaging now. Like, he's been unimpressive. But do you think Dallas can tie up the series at home, or is Boston going to win one in Dallas, or both? What
Pro-
do you think?
if Dallas keeps playing like trash, if they keep like, because they have the home court they have the home court, and the role player, like Joe said, role players are play better at home. So like, you just gotta cross your, like, Dallas is hoping to cross their fingers and hope some of them could carry the load that Kyrie is lacking, and actually help Luka, because he can't do it by himself. They're killing him. Like, he's literally trying
Luca
to.
has been spectacular, though.
Exactly.
But he had a
That.
couple sloppy Joe turnovers and free throws.
Yeah, that and 7 minutes free throws.
Yes.
Those are killers, man.
Yes. But it's hard to say other than that, because those are pretty big deals. But kidding aside, he has been really spectacular, Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you see? Here's what I'm hoping for as someone who had Dallas winning this. I'm hoping that we head into game 5 tied at 2 apiece, and then it's a 3-game series, and Dallas then has to steal 1 in Boston. That's what I'm hoping for. Am I on too much hopium/copium with my pre-pick?
Not that much, because Boston has choked in the past. So like, it could happen, but then again, anything can happen. Like, it might be a sweep in the finals. Then I'll be laughing at Kyrie again. Like this. How'd that rebuild, Kyrie? Ya bum.
Tell him, Jordan. Tell him. Let him know.
I'll be sad for Luka. I'll be depressed. I'll be like, Luka, no, you were the best.
I think you unofficially adopted him, if I remember. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He's one of the best players in the NBA right now. Yet they're leaving him to die. Look at what they did to my boy.
I'm sorry, Jordan. I hope we find a way to recover from all of this. But definitely some things to clean up if you're a Dallas fan, for sure. Yeah. I didn't want it to end like this, Jordan. I really was hoping for Dallas to just steal one. But as Joe, No Earmuffs Joe always says, this series doesn't start until a road team wins a game. So we still have a series, Jordan. And that's a Joe original, by the way. All right, Jordan. Let's see. We have Stanley Cup tonight.
Ooh.
Right, we have game 2 tonight.
Yeah, it's game 2 tonight. Oh boy,
that was me. That was me asking, but I didn't ask in a good way, so my bad. What happens tonight, Jordan?
Like I said yesterday, I hope that it goes to overtime, because overtime hockey is fun and just, it's filled with tension and so much fun. But if Edmonton doesn't improve the defense and leaving Skinner naked, like one of the Edmonton Oilers girls, but then it's probably gonna be a long day.
What?
There's probably gonna be a long day. There's probably gonna be a long day for the Oilers. Like, They just had to improve the defense, make some in-game adjustments, try and see if they can leave some. Try and see if they can support Skinner in some of the power play. Like try and put some pressure into Florida, like, and try and find some of those because Bobrovsky can be beaten, but like you have to make those opportunities count.
Yes.
But not Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky is still a wall. That's the thing.
Yes. He's more of a wall at this point than even Porzingis at the rim, which is why it infuriates me when Dallas goes up weak against him. Not to mix sports here. Joe goes on to say, as much as I love the plug, I surely stole that from someone much smarter than me. LMAO. I'm going to call baloney, Joe. I thought I heard it from you first. At least that's what I'm going to claim right here, right now. So that was a Joe original. A playoff series doesn't start, Jordan, according to Joe, unless the away team steals one. So, Jordan, what is your? Actually, let's look at the line. Let's do this proper. You know gambling now. You know betting.
Yeah.
So you're an expert. I see you as an expert, at least.
Yay.
Florida Panthers are favored by 1.5 on the puck line. Are you taking Florida minus 1.5 or the Edmonton Oilers plus 1.5?
Oh God, that's tough. That's literally tough, man. Come on, man.
Putting you on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, I gotta take for again. It's a game about momentum. I'm taking Florida covering because again, Bobrovsky's is literally a brick wall. They have two front lines that could legitimately literally destroy Edmonton's defense, and yeah, like, and I'm taking the under because again, like, it's gonna be a very competitive game, so it's probably gonna be like a 2-1 game. I believe so because like it's gonna be tough unless Florida gets another no goal score, empty net score.
Yeah. All right, Jordan. So you're picking the under, and you're picking Florida to cover 1.5 on the puck line, correct?
Yeah.
Jordan, this is where we have our Texas style standoff. This is where we will go head to head. I am seeing this game differently. I believe that Edmonton, the offense will get back on track, but I'm seeing their defense being just as porous as before, but not quite as porous as the LA Lakers front office. There's nothing more porous than that, which is why I didn't believe the report from Adrian Wojnarowski at all, but that's beside the point. I'm going over 5.5, and I'm going Edmonton Oilers money line. Sue me. Oh, you know all about that. You're part of the judicial system.
When you people, when you're people, if you get bankrupt because of Gabe, you can find in New York, probably upstate though.
Thanks. Give away my government name. Why don't you? All right, Jordan.
It's not.
So you're
at least I didn't give up your actual address. Then that'll be doxing.
Oh yeah. By the way, you can find me at. So okay, Jordan, you're taking Florida to win comfortably.
Yep.
And you're calling this being a low-scoring game. One of us will look foolish tomorrow. One of us will look brilliant, but both of us will be here to roast the other. So it's all good. And it's all good. Jordan, it looks like you're ready for a nap. We got to get out of here. Anything you want to plug / final thoughts that you would like to say to Joe?
You can find my Twitter is JC689, and while Joe's right about the Boston Celtics being one of the more better constructed rosters, he's wrong about Jason Tatum. he literally tweeted Jason Tatum is gonna get 30 points. I'm like, if I was at that show, I've been like, we're talking about this. Wait, we're talking about the same Tatum that couldn't even get that couldn't even get. I think what was his point average during the 2021 finals? Because I forgot.
I'll look it up for you.
Yeah, that's how like bad he was. Like he literally had that that IG post about like, yo, I'm gonna do it for you, Kobe. and then they lose to Golden State, and people were memeing him to hell. And I probably would have been like, what got a meme like Kobe's looking down on me like, nah, that's not my man's. Oh, rest in peace, Kobe.
Oh, now I'm sad. All right, are you ready? I do have the postseason average for the 2021.
Mm-hmm.
25.6 points per game. So far, he's averaging in the playoffs. Oh, that was the whole postseason. My bad. We're just spreading misinformation here.
Tatum got like
because you're asking for just the finals, right?
Yeah, just the finals. Like
yeah.
I think I saw the eliminate like like I said he did fine. It's just that like he couldn't really lead he just really couldn't lead the team. Like we did have 12 points, in a finals game. So
here we go. Okay, so this isn't what you're technically looking for, but he in the NBA Finals games against Golden State, he had 12 points, 28 points, 26 points, 23 points, 27 points, and then in the closeout game, he had 13. And he shot pretty poorly. Like he shot 17.6% at one point, and he shot 33.3% and 34.8% in two other games. Like that's the bigger issue. He's getting his points, but it's a little bit of empty calories. Like he's getting it off of a lot of shots and a lot of bad shots. That's just how I view it. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine Michael Jordan?
He's probably like, ooh, that's booty cheat numbers right there.
I want to see if LeBron had 13 points in a single NBA Finals game, and if he did, we all know it would have been in the Mavericks series.
Probably it was either that or his first finals against the Spurs. Was it the Spurs? I think so.
You are very correct to point that out, Jordan. The Spurs were spectacular that year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the first game, in the 76-85 loss, he had 14 points. But listen to that final score in a finals game, 76-85. That was back in 2006.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a little bit different. But either way. All right, Jordan. I'm going to look at the Dallas one finally.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot. Jordan in game 4, he had 8 points. LeBron James did off of 11 he only attempted 11 field goals.
That's how good that was his first year with Heat, right? Because like,
yep.
I remember that series where like Dallas just shut them down. Like,
yeah. So I guess it happens, but it seems to happen almost always with Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. This will be weird. If Boston wins, this will be the first time that I know of where the star player didn't lead his team. And like where you're questioning who the star player is within the NBA Finals itself. You would have Jaylen. I would have Drew Holiday as my Finals MVP. Or would you have Jaylen Brown?
Like you're going with Finals MVP. We're going with Finals MVP. Yeah, Drew Holiday. Because he's been spectacular in these past two games.
Do you know what I've saw? And we'll get out here after this, Jordan. So we'll have you react to this, or see if Joe wants to give you any ish for what you said. But we'll get out here after this, Jordan. I heard that this would be one of the few finals where people would be okay if a losing player were to get the Finals MVP. People would seem to be okay with Doncic for sure over Tatum winning Finals MVP. What do you think?
If between Doncic and Jason Tatum, yeah, I'll just throw it out way because Luka's gonna like between those two, Luka's gonna get that one because like he's been the better player, but like, like they've been oh my goodness, I keep forgetting. I keep getting like the Stanley Cup MVP trophy name.
Oh yeah.
I think they give it to like one of the losing goalies at one game at one year. I am not really the biggest hockey fan, but like I do watch like a lot of people that know a lot more hockey than I do. But yeah,
I'll admit I don't know what it is in hockey, but in basketball it's the Bill O'Brien. It's the Bill Russell NBA
yeah.
MVP.
But I won't be surprised if they give it to Luka because he's been the better player in these past two games. Even though his team is literally like, you can do it, Luka, yeah. And everyone else is like, what are you doing? Play.
Especially Irving. Come on, Irving. We need you to win the Dallas.
Even San Antonio, even this dude that loves San Antonio is saying play better.
Come on, Irving. And can you believe I said the Bill O'Brien trophy for the NBA Finals? Like, where's my head at? Jordan, we got to get out of here. You've been awesome. Catch you later. See you, Joe.